Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ollie Hayes, and today I'm bringing the extra time match review for Manchester City 2, Everton nil. A little bit of a disappointing result at the Etihad Stadium, but plenty of positives to take from the performance. But today I'm just going to give you my overall thoughts, and we'll start with the starting 11. And obviously, the big dilemma going into the game was Jack Grealish was playing against his parent club. So, who was going to come into the side? I think we were all expecting Carlos Alcaraz to come into the side, especially after that second half performance against Crystal Palace, which got the win. And obviously, Kane and Dewsbury Hall back from suspension, so it was likely going to be them two. And obviously, David Moyes did go with that in the end. He went with Carlos Alcaraz out on the left hand side, Kane and Dewsbury Hall down the middle, and Iliman and Jai off the right. So there's no complaints there from me. Obviously, we were always going to miss Jack Grealish in there. He's so consistent, he's so prolific, so good at creating chances. I think he's top of the Premier League for chance creation. So that alone, it was going to be a big miss. But I think Charlie Alcaraz did everything he could in the Crystal Palace second half to warrant a start. So it was a pretty easy decision for David Moyes to make. And also, it was nice to see Merlin Roll back involved in the squad. Obviously, a little bit of a long layoff for him due to injury. So nice to see him back in the squad. Obviously, we are awaiting the return of Jarrad Branthwaite, which you will know with today's news that Jarrad Branthwaite is out for a lengthier period of time now, obviously requiring surgery on that hamstring. So get well soon, Jarrad. Fingers crossed he can make a speedy recovery and get back in there. But as I said before, it was nice to see Merlin Roll back involved in the matchday squad. But going into the first half now, it was actually relatively uneventful. There was a few chances here and there. Obviously, at the Etihad Stadium, you know that Manchester City are going to control the bulk of the ball. That it goes without saying. They're going to control large amounts of possession, and it's going to be difficult for Everton to really get a foothold in terms of getting over 50-60% possession. It's just, it's just unheard of when you go to the Etihad. So it was going to be a pretty difficult first half in terms of keeping the ball, and we had to take our chances when we actually got given them. But I do think we countered quite well. Obviously, Iliman and Jai was absolutely on fire in that first half. He was here, there, and everywhere. His footwork was fantastic to get out of really difficult situations for the defence, and he was up and down that right hand side all afternoon long. Obviously, we know that Jake O'Brien isn't a natural right back, so Iliman and Jai did his fair share of defensive work in that first half, and it's probably why he looked so knackered in that second half. But if we're talking about chances in that first half, Erling Haaland rattled the crossbar from a corner for Manchester City, and Iliman Ndiaye forced a great save from Gianluigi Donnarumma at the far side. But the biggest chance we have to talk about, and it obviously fell to Beto. We've all seen the videos. We've all seen, the chance of how big a chance it was. In his defence, I do think it's quite a little bit of a difficult one. He is stretching for the ball. He's trying to, he is at full stretch trying to get there, but world class strikers take those opportunities, and unfortunately we didn't. But if we look at the first half as a whole, for me the standout performer was Iliman Ndiaye. I think he was absolutely fantastic. But going into half time, I massively felt the game was there for the taking. Obviously going in at the break 0-0. It was similar to last year in the sense that we went in level. Obviously, we got pegged back last year at the Etihad, and then Iliman Ndiaye scored a fantastic goal to equalise. It was a similar feeling that I felt like the game was there for the taking. And then obviously we know what happened in that second half. Unfortunately, we saw the difference between a world-class striker and just a decent Premier League striker. Erling Haaland got two chances in the box and took both of them. One was a great header, which Jordan Pickford nearly kept out, and then the other one was a slow shot which kind of ricocheted off James Tarkowski and wrong-footed Jordan Pickford, and we found ourselves 2-0 down within 10 minutes. And again, I think it's just a little bit of sloppy defending really for both goals. I think both goals were pretty avoidable. Not for Jordan Pickford's sake, for example. I think there was nothing he could have done to maybe save those. But I think from a defensive point of view, you look at maybe Jake O'Brien and Iliman Ndiaye, just a little bit of a lapse in concentration to let Nico O'Reilly get the cross in for Erling Haaland, and then also leaving Erling Haaland unmarked in the box for the second goal. You know what's going to happen. He's an absolute world-class striker. He's an absolute beast, and he seems to be scoring anything he touches at the moment. So give him an opportunity like that, and he's absolutely going to take it, unfortunately. And that was really it for that second half. We didn't really get out of the traps at that point. You're going into the hour mark, you're 2-0 down at the Etihad. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to come back from those results, and that's not what happened. We really struggled to create any chances. Obviously, Tieno Barry came on, Dwight McNeil came on, Timo Abunam, but also to see Merlin Roll get some minutes and get back onto the grass and get a bit of minutes under his belt, I think was good to see. I'm hoping that he maybe gets a little bit more against Spurs on Sunday, but I think he was, an impressive cameo for him once again, which we've only seen two cameos from him, and he's shown that he's impressed in both of those cameos. So, yeah, fair enough to Merlin Roll. It's good to see him back out there, but yeah, a little bit of a lackluster second half performance, and we didn't really get going. And unfortunately, that saw Manchester City take home all 3 points. But my overall verdict for the game, I think there's definitely positives to take from the performance. I think there's positives to take in defence from that first half. We were really strong, resolute, and then Iliman and Jai as well was fantastic up and down that right hand side. So there's definitely positives to take, and I think it gives us a good platform to go into the Tottenham Hotspur game at Hill Dickinson Stadium on Sunday and try and put in another good performance and replicate that first half. Maybe not the second half, but replicate that first half. But yeah, as I said before, we're into another week now and looking ahead to a very tough game against Spurs. Obviously, they're coming off the back of a defeat against Aston Villa at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, so they're going to want to bounce back. Obviously, under Thomas Frank now, so going to be a really tough game. But fingers crossed we can get something. But that is all from me today. For my thoughts of Manchester City 2, Everton nil. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about how we played. I've no doubt in my mind that I think it'll be pretty unanimous that I think there's a lot of positives to take, but we just need a little bit more improvement in the final third. But that is all from me today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.